You ever get that weird feeling when someone who honestly doesn't seem that sharp is somehow making way more money than you? And you're sitting there like, wait, are they secretly a genius or something? Here's the thing, chances are they really aren't that clever. But what most people don't get is that intelligence, while useful, is actually kind of overrated when it comes to making money. In fact, sometimes it's the very thing that's keeping you stuck. So in today's video, we're diving into why being smart doesn't always mean you'll be rich, how people who seem totally clueless still end up making bank, and most importantly, how to actually use your smarts the right way to build serious wealth. Because once you figure that out, you're unstoppable. Alright, let's kick things off by talking about the whole intelligence myth. You know how growing up, everyone around you, parents, teachers, society in general, kept drilling into your head that being smart is the golden ticket to success. Like, if you're the brainy kid getting straight A's, you're expected to crush it in school, land a spot at some fancy university, and eventually go on to do big things in life. Meanwhile, the rest of the class is kind of told, sometimes directly, sometimes subtly, that life's probably going to be a grind for them. And because of that belief, people end up pouring years of their life and thousands of dollars into chasing one degree after another, thinking, if I just get smarter, I'll definitely make more money. But here's the problem. Our society practically worships intelligence. Yet if being smart alone was enough to make you rich, wouldn't the wealthiest people on earth be professors, doctors, and lawyers? Exactly. But that's not the case. Take Thomas Edison, for example. His teacher literally told his mum he was too dumb to learn anything, and that he'd never amount to much. Seriously. He barely had any formal education, dropped out of school early on, and yet this same guy went on to become one of the most legendary inventors in history. His inventions changed the world and made him millions. But here's the twist. Edison wasn't your typical genius, not even close. Now, on the flip side, you've got someone like Nikola Tesla. This guy was undeniably a genius. I mean, he invented alternating current, the very tech that powers basically every modern electrical system. By all accounts, he should be one of the most influential and richest inventors ever. His patents alone could have made him a billionaire, easily. But here's the thing, Tesla had zero business sense, none. He died completely broke, and not even kidding, in love with a pigeon. Yeah, you can look it up. His story shows something important. You can read every book, earn every certificate, know everything, but even being a full-on genius doesn't guarantee success or wealth. In fact, in a weird twist, being smart can sometimes get in your way. And in just a bit, we'll break down the number one reason why smart people actually struggle to get rich. Alright, picture this. There are two people standing in front of this massive maze. At the end, everything you've ever wanted, money, freedom, success, whatever your dream life looks like. One of them is a certified genius. The other, just your regular, everyday guy. Now before stepping in, the genius pulls out their phone, starts scribbling notes, trying to figure out the entire maze before even taking a single step. They want the perfect plan. Meanwhile, the average dude, he just shrugs and walks right in. Sure, he hits dead ends, makes wrong turns, runs around in circles. It looks messy, kind of embarrassing even. But here's the thing, every time he messes up, he learns, adjusts, and tries a new path. Most of the time, it's still wrong, but once in a while, he gets it right. And slowly but surely, he's getting closer to the end. Meanwhile, the genius is still at the starting line, overthinking every move, stuck trying to crack the code before making a move. So who do you think actually gets to the finish line first? Yeah, it's kind of obvious. Let's be real. No matter how many wrong turns he takes, that average Joe is eventually going to find his way out of the maze. Meanwhile, our genius, still camped out at the entrance, furiously typing away. Why? Because they're scared. Scared of messing up, taking the wrong path, wasting time. Scared of looking stupid. See, when you grow up constantly being told you're smart, it starts to shape your identity. Being smart isn't just something you are, it becomes who you are. So when you fail, it doesn't feel like a small mistake, it feels personal, like your whole identity is under attack. That's why the straight A student, the one who gets the master's, the PhD, becomes a professor, they often never take a shot at building something risky, like starting a business. Because what if they fail? Then maybe they weren't all that smart to begin with, and that's a brutal pill to swallow. Now think about it. This is exactly why people who seem mindless sometimes end up doing better. They're not overthinking how they look. They're not obsessed with doing it the smart way. They just want to get it done. But for a lot of smart folks, just getting it done isn't enough. They want to do it perfectly. And that fear of not doing it perfectly, it completely kills momentum. On the other hand, action takers don't care about failing. They're not afraid of messing up, looking dumb, or even getting laughed at. They know failure doesn't define them. What does matter is how they bounce back. Because here's the truth. The people who win aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who treat failure like a normal part of life and keep moving forward anyway. And that brings us to the real issue. Intelligence actually hurts you if it makes you overthink everything. That's what we call analysis paralysis. But here's the good news, there's a way out. And it doesn't involve some magical secret or unfair edge. The people who break free from overthinking, they've just mastered 2 key skills. Let's talk about the first one. You've probably heard the phrase, action takers are money makers. And that's the first big skill, execution. It's the one thing that gives action takers a serious edge. Think of ideas like seeds. Everyone's got them. But unless you actually plant them, water them, and take care of them, they're just going to sit there doing nothing. That's the catch. Ideas are everywhere. What really sets people apart is the ability to execute them better than anyone else. Take Elon Musk, for example. He didn't invent satellites, he didn't invent rockets, but what he did do was execute the idea better than anyone else. And that's why SpaceX is crushing it in the space game right now. Let's be honest, we all have great ideas. Starting a business, writing a book, picking up a new skill. But how many of those things do we actually follow through with? You could have a brain like Einstein's, but if you don't use it for anything, it doesn't mean much. Inspiration? That's everywhere. Execution? That's rare. And here's where most people get it twisted. They think execution is some kind of personality trait. Like, oh, that person's just naturally driven. Nope, not true. Execution is a skill, something you can train, you can learn to take action. You don't have to be born with it, and that's the first skill you need to master. Now let's move on to the second. Now the second skill, social intelligence. Let's take Steve Jobs as the perfect example. He wasn't the best engineer at Apple. He didn't write the code or build the actual devices, but what he had was vision, leadership, and most importantly, the ability to sell an idea. Jobs convinced the best engineers in the world to work with him. He made people believe that what he was building was the future. And because of that, Apple didn't just make tech, it became one of the most valuable companies in history. Not because Jobs was some genius coder, but because he knew how to get people to rally behind a mission. And this right here, this is where most people miss the mark. See, wealth isn't just built on intelligence or talent. It's built on your ability to influence, to connect, to get people to take action. That's social intelligence. And in many cases, it's way more valuable than a high IQ. Sure, a high IQ might help you ace exams or solve complicated problems, but it doesn't mean people are going to trust you, work with you, or more importantly, pay you. On the flip side, if you've got strong social intelligence, you can build trust, inspire teams, land deals, and open doors that no exam score ever could. Because at the end of the day, investors don't pour money into spreadsheets. They back people who sell a vision. And customers, they don't just buy products, they buy into stories. So no matter what industry you're in, success usually comes down to how well you can communicate, persuade, and lead. Now, with that said, how do you actually stop second-guessing yourself and start taking action? So how do you actually take action and build wealth? Well, by now you already know it's not about how smart you are. It all comes down to mindset. And if you live by these 3 simple rules, you'll start lapping people who are still sitting around trying to be the smartest person in the room. First, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Seriously, life doesn't come with a trial run or a refund button. There's no safe test version where you can dip your toes in and see how it goes. You've got to jump in. You could spend years planning, analysing and dreaming, but none of it matters until you actually do something. So instead of getting stuck in what if, ask yourself, what's one move I can make right now? Then go do it. Second, don't be afraid to mess up. Every single day, you're writing your story without knowing how it ends. And guess what? That's normal. There's no GPS, no master blueprint for becoming who you're meant to be. You're going to screw up. That's part of the ride. But don't let that stop you from moving forward, even when things feel uncertain. Because most of life is uncertain. And third, always prioritize people over ideas. Ideas are great, but even the most brilliant one doesn't mean much if you can't communicate it. Because at the end of the day, an idea only becomes powerful when it connects with real people. That takes vision, that takes leadership. And yeah, it takes a damn good story. So the next time you're sharing your mission, your business, your passion, remember, it's not just what you say, it's how you make people feel that matters. At the end of the day, the difference between success and failure, it's not intelligence, it's action. Because action beats intelligence. Every single time. And that's a wrap for now. If you liked this video, hit subscribe, turn on the notifications, and I'll see you inside the sphere of socialites.